All right, we're joined, very pleased to be joined by Frank Grillo. How are you doing? You actually just showed us before we did our quote unquote real start. You have an awesome graffiti painting. Is this your office of you and a lot of your characters?
Oh, my office, brother. This is the dining room of my home.
Even better.
Yes. We have a lot to get to today, but let's talk quickly off the top, though. Let's let everyone know about Boss Level. Roy, boy, this was quite the movie to have on at work this morning, by the way. We got a chance to watch it. This is if you ever want to see a 9 a.m. work movie, this was it right here.
Are you kidding me? Wow.
I had it on over my computer speakers too. Everyone's like, "What's all the gunshots happening over there?" I'm like, "Look, man, it's a work thing."
That's a lot. That's a lot. That's a commitment at 9 a.m.
That's a perk of our job. Roy Pulver, a retired Special Forces soldier, finds himself trapped in a sinister program, which results in a never-ending time loop leading to his repeated death. March 5th, 2021, not like next year, on Hulu.
Yes.
And boy, oh boy, is this a wild movie. Before we ask some questions about it, let's hear from you, though. Why should people be excited for Boss Level?
They should be excited for Boss Level because I think it's a throwback to those kind of 80s. You don't have to think too much. Action, R-rated action films, and we just don't have them anymore. I was just telling my buddy, I was like, it's like a dumb joke. Like I always laugh at that dumb joke. It's like you sit down, you watch this film. It's familiar. It's not familiar, and I don't have to think too much. And I think I'm going to have a good time. And it's that. And I think after the year that we've all had, films like this are what we're looking for.
It's actually funny because a co-star of yours in multiple movies told us a very similar thing about a movie he did. We talked to Anthony Mackie recently. And he said the same thing. He recently was in a movie. He goes, I want to make movies that like I used to really enjoy. Like, let's do something different. Let's do something fun. This movie is absolutely crazy. Time loop movies. There's been a lot of time loop movies recently. People love the idea because it's just so inventive, creative, and kind of impossible to predict where it's going. What really drew you to that? Is it the endless possibilities?
Well, I always love time loop. Look, Groundhog Day is one of my favorite movies. I love the movie, and for that reason. But Joe and I had started this journey 10 years ago, trying to get this movie made, and then we formed our own company after we did Wheelman and got the script back, and Joe tweaked it, and we realized we were glad we didn't get to make it 10 years ago because we're much better at what we do now. But we loved it for the same exact reason. We loved this guy. We loved having to relive it, and we loved the way he died every day. And that instead of discovering he's in a time loop like you do in a lot of time loop movies with him, he's 180 times in, and he's bored with it already. So he's just kind of telling you what he's been doing for the last 180 days. And then you catch up with him. So it's the same familiar thing with a little different spin on it.
I like that you mentioned that because you do start like with it's sort of like you're already accelerated, right? Like you don't need to like sit there waiting for the speed to build up. You're already halfway into it, which I did like about this movie a lot. And I like how you mentioned how it's like familiar, but it's not at the same time. One line your character says when he gets off of like a helicopter, he's just like, "Nice driving, dick." And like pistol whips a guy, and like that's what it reminds me of, like Commando lines, like old late 80s action movies. It's awesome.
That's it. That Commando. I mean, Carnahan and I were just doing a bunch of press together, and this is what we watched. The Commando. This is what we watched when we were kids. But as he said, I watched the movie just so that I could watch Arnold Schwarzenegger blow people up. We want to make movies like that, but we want to add an element. We want to add the heart. The movie's got heart. It's me and my son and Naomi try to figure it out, and hopefully people connect to that as well.
You have a lot of death scenes in this movie, a lot. And how fun is it getting to kind of act those out? Because I imagine you get one death you really have to craft in a movie if it's a movie like that. But a movie like this where you die a trillion times, how fun is that getting to act all those out?
I had a ball. I was just going through a bunch of behind the scenes photos from when we shot the film. And every photo was me and Joe hysterical laughing. Like it was tough making the movie, but when we were on set shooting it, it was joyous. I mean, we had so much fun coming up with different ideas, and I had a dummy that became like the staple on set. My head was always getting chopped off. We're like two, 8-year-old kids getting to make a movie.
My personal favorite was the harpoon. I laughed out loud. And that's without spoiling. The harpoon, I laughed out loud.
Harpoon's one of my favorites, and going through the bus is also one of my favorites.
Yes.
Was there any death for you in this? Because obviously you get to act out a bunch of them. I'm sure you get to put your own twist on some of them. Was there any of them where you do it and you're like, all right, that might have been too much? You're like, we might have gone too far.
I get shot in the nuts.
Yes, you do.
I was like, do we need this one? I mean, is this necessary? Yeah.
That was the most painful one. You did mention it in the movie.
Yeah.
I mean, I would love to pretend to you right now that I'm old enough and mature enough to not be like, the nut shot got me. It absolutely made me chuckle, like a real hearty, immature chuckle. So
I know. And by the way, look, I'm a lot older than you. It doesn't change as we get older. I'm the same idiot I was when I was 20 years old.
Was there anything in this, like, was there any death or like kind of action thing that you've never been able to do before that you got to do here that you were like, oh shit, the opportunity was finally here. I could do something I haven't done.
I got to jump off a building, which is something I've never.
That's surprising. You've never done that, actually.
Well, they don't let me do it. They don't, yeah. So I was the producer, so I got to call the shots, and so I got to jump off the building, and that was a lot of fun.
Let's transition a little to like some MMA stuff because I'm very curious your thoughts on this. We put that kind of like the Hollywood MMA liaison, Kingdom, Fight World, Warrior. Is that something that really you prideful about, something that you've kind of always wanted?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's I did a Netflix docuseries called Fight World, obviously, and
awesome.
That's kind of an homage to how much I love fighters, how much I love any kind of fighter, and I'm real curious about. I've always been real curious about why people choose to fight on purpose. And I've been involved in wrestling and martial arts and jiu-jitsu and boxing and all kinds of things since I was a boy. So it's I take pride in it. I have a lot of friends in the fight community who respect me as somebody who respects the sports. And to me, that's the most important thing.
Martial arts like kind of shows, not just movies, but shows have becoming more like mainstream again now, such as Warrior, the one you were in, and Cobra Kai and a lot of others.
Oh, yeah.
Warrior Kingdom, the one you were in, and Warrior and some other shows. Yeah. Why do you think the public is now like kind of sweeping back to that genre?
I think what's starting to happen is they realize there's a person behind the sport. There are these fighters. They're interesting. Look, fighters live in a world of conflict, and from conflict comes great drama, right? And from great drama comes great theater and great television shows. And I think that's why people caught on to Kingdom its second time around on Netflix, because at its core, it was a family drama, and it's a subculture. It's not something everyone knows about. And when you get to know why people do something that is so kind of brutish, it makes for really good entertainment, and I think that's what people have caught on to.
Someone we interviewed who I assume I think have probably met before, Sam Hargraves. We interviewed him for Extraction. He was the stunt double for Chris Evans on.
Yeah, he's made more than that. So Sam and I go way back. Sam and I go back to Warrior.
That's great.
He was Joel Edgerton's double. And then Sam was a double on Captain America and Winter Soldier. And then he started to work his way up to coordinator, I think on by the time the Avengers came around, he was a coordinator. And then Sam went to China with me. I made a movie called Wolf Warrior 2 in China, which made $1 billion. And Sam was kind of behind the scenes he kind of directed a lot of that film. And now he did, now the Russo brothers created a great director in him. So
yeah, we're lucky enough to interview him, and something he said to us that I think has always stuck out to me is just how he said these new wave action movies, things like John Wick and stuff like that, they kind of tell narratives through the fight. Like, you know what I mean? Instead of it trying to be like, telling a story and the fight coming around, like they're trying to make like those the moments. They tell the story through the action. And that's what makes those movies so successful, which is something I kind of see in your movie as well.
Exactly.
One of those movies, the new wave action movies that I really fucking love, one of my favorite action movies maybe ever, was The Raid. Now, you were supposed to do the Raid remake, which I believe got changed to now Xeno, also with Joe Carnahan, right?
Yep, and we still have it. And I started out when the Raid was being remade at Sony. It was me, Mackie, and Taylor Kitsch, and we were about to go make the movie, and then it fell apart. And then subsequently, they came to me when it left Sony. They came to me and said, "Would you guys be interested in making this?" So we were going to remake the Raid, and it's a tough movie to remake because it's not a mainstream movie here in America, and it's got its fans, but it's not an easy movie to make, and you got to be careful because it was made so distinct in its execution. You can go down a rabbit hole and it'll be a disaster. So we have the script that we wrote, and we are going to make it. It's similar. But I'm also hearing that my buddy Patrick Hughes, who I did Hitman's Bodyguard 2 with, is going to remake The Raid. So I don't know. Yeah. Yep.
We had a little joke and bit here because we were going to transition. I was going to say, let's talk about one of the highest grossing movies of all time that you were in. We've seen Wolf Warrior. We were going to just joke. We were going to do a little Avengers Wolf Warrior 2 gag. We've seen it. We've reviewed Wolf Warrior 2 on this podcast. It blew our minds. What the story around it, the movie in general, it was incredible.
And look, it was a lot better than it was supposed to be. And, I went there, and I'll be honest with you, I went there originally because they paid me a lot of money. And, and then when I got there and Sam was there and the whole stunt team basically from Marvel was there, I was like, oh my God, this is going to be, and Sam made that movie as far as the action, which it's an action movie. It was Sam Hargrave and company who he directed all of that stuff. And boom, the movie made when I came back, when that movie opened, every studio head called me into their office, every one of them, because they thought I had some secret, I knew about what I was doing. Why? I was like, no, I thought maybe you wanted to give me another movie. I don't know. It was quite a phenomenon.
That movie we liked a lot. How different is the process working on a foreign movie like that? Because human sentimentality is generally the same across borders wherever you are, but there's obviously nuanced differences in different Hollywood. There's different sorts of different national shooting styles. You know what I mean? So what are the different nuances there?
First of all, there's no unions. There's nothing. They work these people 20 hours a day if they want to. There's no. You're in communist China. And then you're in communist China. So culturally, it's a different world. It's a different animal. They just see life in a different way. And I think what Sam did was he brought the Western idea of an action movie into China, right? And that's what made it successful, I think.
I'm really glad we got to talk about it. It's funny that you brought it up too. We're also I'm not going to pretend we don't like Marvel. We're fucking huge Marvel fans. So we got to talk.
Who's not?
And you know the drill at this point. You're not going to do an interview when people aren't going to bring up Avengers. They're not going to bring up Captain America. But the first one you were in, Winter Soldier, it kind of changed the game a little bit with Marvel. That was the one where I think most people say oh, this is different. This is not the other Marvel movies.
By the way, even getting that movie I was like, all right, with Marvel. I was doing another movie, and they flew me to go screen test with 5 other dudes. And I was like, oh, what is this? Chris Evans? I don't know. Who is this white guy? And I went up there and did it. And, for my money, that script and that movie, I think, is the best Marvel movie that I've seen as far as a real film. And they're all great, but I think Winter Soldier for me, not because I'm in it, but I think it was the best. I think it's the best, and it was the game changer for them. Mm-hmm. It really was the game changer for them.
It was the head turner, and obviously the scene in that movie that everyone always talks about. It's the elevator fight scene.
Yeah, it's like an iconic scene now. Yeah.
But then, we just talked to the Russos. I told them I thought this was the most underrated moment of the movie was when Cap leans in, says Hail Hydra, because everyone's like, oh, they're going to fight again. They're going to do it again. That had to be pretty neat. I know you just said you were in it for 30 seconds, but you were in a pretty cool little fake out there in homage to a famous scene.
I know. And you know, it's funny because, and I love the Russo brothers. We're pals. We're good friends. You can't help but be great friends with them. But you know, the trajectory of Crossbones took a turn, and he was out of the movie. He's out of the series really quickly, right? And I was a little pissed off about it because, you know, I signed like a 7-picture deal with them, and it was like, oh, you're going to be part of the Marvel universe, right? And it didn't happen. And so they called me and they said, look, we need you to come down for a week for Avengers. And I'm like, for what? And they go, well, we can't. I'm like, no, I'm not doing it. So I hung up. So he's like, I get a call back. Goes, bro, I'm like, hey, look, I'm not, like, they screwed me. I'm not coming. Leave me alone. And like, who the fuck am I? Like, really, who am I? Right. And so my 22-year-old son said to me, hey, Dad, you should go and do Avengers. I'm like, oh yeah, why should I? He goes, because I'm telling you, you need to go. I don't care. He said, I don't care if we're in the movie for 10 seconds. It's a part of history. It's a big deal. Everybody in the world, it's a big scene. It's an important thing. And it's a real kind of, everybody gets to kind of smile and go, oh my God. And that's why I did it, because of my son, not because of the Russos. I went and did it because of my son. Yeah.
I'm sure you're pretty happy now. But so right?
I'd have been a dick. I'd have been the dick.
They'd have been like, wait a second, that's not the same scene. He's not in there. Yeah. But I will say, because I've read, again, I'm kind of burying the lead. We're massive fans. So I've read everything you've kind of said about it. And I can tell, like, you're like, fuck, Crossbones, and you mentioned that you get recognized a ton for Crossbones, and you're like, well, why is Crossbones not bigger? And I think you've kind of gone back and forth a little bit on wanting to play it again, especially now that there's like a multiverse.
Of course I want to play
Come on,
it
all right,
again.
okay.
I got my feelings hurt. You know what I mean? I was like, why? How come you kept all those people? Anyway, but you know, here's the thing, and it's interesting. And look, I love Marvel. I'm Kevin Feige. It's amazing to be this much part of it. But there's something, now that I produce movies with my buddy, there's something to be said for a character that literally Crossbones is on screen very little. The actual character Crossbones, not Brock Rumlow. I cannot tell you. I don't think people realize it. Like, they think Crossbones is part of the Avengers, and like, people really loved this character, and they loved him in the comics too, because he was a real hardcore villain. And whether it's me or someone else, I think they would be nuts not to kind of at some point reintroduce Crossbones somewhere in the world if it fits in. I mean, I've been doing the what ifs.
That was our next question. What's been going on with that?
Yeah, I do it in my closet. We just put the blankets up, and I recorded it well done. I mean, I've seen a little tiny bits, and I've seen what my character looks like. I mean, just Marvel is unrivaled in what they're able to do, and the level of quality. I think this is going to be even bigger than the movies. That's how amazing it is.
Did I freeze?
No, you're good.
You guys have me? Okay.
No.
WandaVision. Couple characters. Jimmy Woo's that character. I'll tell you what, Randall Park, people want him to have his own show now. All I'm saying is, what if Crossbones the big what if hit? Who would have thought that Randall Park's Jimmy Woo, people be like, we want a show with him. So I don't know. I've given a lot of myself to Marvel, and I feel like they owe me a little bit. I don't know if they've seen this. I noticed Crossbones right away. I saw it right away.
There. Son of a bitch.
Non-Marvel. It can be Marvel, it can be whatever. Before we go, obviously Boss Level, March 5th on Hulu. I almost said 2021 again. Like, no shit. No, on Hulu. Right. Give us 6 movies. We want 6 movies from you. Could be your favorites. Could be guilty pleasures. Just 6 movie suggestions that you can throw off top of your head to our audience.
Top of my head, audience, 6 movies. Predator. Escape from New York. Judgment at Nuremberg. Godfather 2. Groundhog Day. Something About Mary.
I love the
little. That was the one most eclectic and separate, just a diverse group of suggestions I think we've ever had since starting this pod. That was a tremendous group of 6 movies. Bravo.
Just off the top of my head. Yeah.
Godfather Part 2, typically, that's, I think, maybe the most picked movie that we have out of
Really?
Yeah.
Godfather 2.
Godfather 1 a lot, but I think you may have just put Godfather 2 at the top. I think that's the one that has,
It's maybe a better one.
Boss Level. We watched this morning. I mean, you can watch it at 9 a.m. at work. I don't know if I would suggest that, but you can if you want. It'll be on Hulu.
No.
Any last thing you want to say about Boss Level?
Just a fun ride. I mean, it's like drinking a lot of beer really fast. It's fun. You know what I mean? And maybe you don't have to do it twice. I don't know. Maybe you want to do it twice. And tune in, watch it. It's what the hell else are you doing? It's COVID.
Exactly.
We have your guarantee as an executive producer. Do not watch it. That's your suggestion. Your official producer and actor suggestion. Don't watch it at 9 a.m. at work on a Tuesday.
I would say. But first of all, congratulations, you have a job. Second of all, do not watch it at 9 a.m. at work.
I know we said no spoilers, but it was The Harpoon. That was the one I was like, Harpoon. Oh fuck! Like this is really early.
That's Joe Carnahan really hating me. Yeah.
Thank you so much. This was an absolute blast.
Thanks,
I'd love to talk to you again.
Yeah,
Take care.
Would love it. Okay, talk soon.